All right. So for our last presentation today, I'm so excited to welcome Jessica. Jessica is a GrizzlyCorps fellow serving at Mendocino County Resource Conservation District. Jessica was born and raised in Mendocino and Sonoma counties and is grateful for the chance to explore environmental resilience and restoration in her own neck of the woods. She graduated from Amherst College in 2020 with a Bachelor of Arts in Geology and Russian, and she worked as a research geologist at the United States Geological Survey Earthquake Science Center, studying tsunami, landslides, volcanoes, and earthquakes. An interest in land management and climate action has led her back to GrizzlyCorps. So I'm so excited to turn it over to Jessica to talk more about her work with Mendocino Resource Conservation District.
Thanks, Jasmine. I'm super excited to share my screen on a monitor for the first time. So is that working all right? Great. Yeah, like Jasmine said, I've been working at the Mendocino County Resource Conservation District. And I'm really grateful for the introductions to resource conservation districts that my fellow fellows have given already, because I think it is really great context for all of the work that we do. That's where I work, that's my desk. And that desk is located in the county above Sonoma County where Tess works. It's a huge county, and we do a lot of diverse work. So I wanted to focus my presentation way down to a set of strategies that we use in talking with people, because I think a huge part of our work at resource conservation districts is sharing knowledge. People like to say that we're like librarians in a sense, because we take all of this expert knowledge from people like biologists and wildfire experts, and we also then spit it back out and share it with landowners and other partners and figure out projects to make things move forward. So a lot of that is educating others and educating ourselves. One of the ways that I got involved in education in my time was with a farm to schools project. We got to go to classrooms and talk with sixth graders and high schoolers about healthy soil principles and sustainable ag practices. So this photo on the right is my coworker Seth doing a slag test, and me acting really interested and engaged in the hopes that the jaded high schoolers who were watching would also get interested and engaged. And maybe it worked. A lot of, I think, education is shaking things off when they don't work. But I think that this grant allowed opportunities to engage the students with a number of their senses. They didn't just have to listen to us talk. They could also get out and watch the bees and the bugs fly by. We got these really cool close focusing binoculars that they could look at. And we got people to, sometimes some of the kids would touch dirt. Some people thought it was gross. Another part of the project, we got to take people to a local farm. This is Irene's garden. The person in the flannel in the front is Irene, and she has a lot of garlic. She has a diversified vegetable farm, but she focuses on garlic. And here she is digging up a head for us to look at. And she was pretty insistent that a lot of the kids taste the fresh garlic, which was really new to a lot of people. But it was helpful, I think, for them to learn about things a couple of different ways with a couple of different senses. And I'm also tickled that we use the same educational materials for adults. We don't tell them that, but I think it's pretty effective for all age groups. So what the picture you see on the left is a rainfall simulator. And Seth is pouring water into it from these containers on the top. Rain will sprinkle down onto this section of soil. And the water will either run off the top into this tiny little container on the front, or it will infiltrate through. And you can kind of see what might happen on a similar piece of soil. Will a lot of it run off? If there's no vegetation, will more infiltrate if there's more? So it's a really helpful visual tool. And it feels kind of silly sometimes to bring out these pieces and be like, yeah, we're going to set up these pieces of plastic and, like, you know, pour some fake rain through and make you guys watch and believe. But it's engaging and it's memorable. And I really think that it has to do with actually hearing the water trickle through and being able to see the process yourself, even if it is fake. And the photo on the right are these infiltration rings. This was at a demonstration project on a vineyard in Anderson Valley, where certain blocks were treated differently with, like, you know, every other row cover crop, and then maybe another block would be resident vegetation, you know. So and then the infiltration part was you'd hammer these rings in to different parts of the row that are receiving different management practices. So under the vine, you'll see no one's driving there, but there is herbicide being applied. And then the one in the middle is actually where the tire track of the tractor is going. So that area is getting a lot of weight put on it. And then the one in the middle is actually not receiving very much management, because no one cares if there's grass in the middle of the aisle there, and also a tractor isn't driving on it. And so the one in the tire track, so you pour a bunch of water in and see how long it takes to infiltrate. And at this particular workshop, we timed that there was still water in an hour and 16 minutes later. So that was a really impactful way to show the effects of compaction on infiltration. This was a really fun day that I got to do with Ellen. We did Nature Fest at HREC, which at Hopland Research and Extension Center, which Chloe also participated in as the GrizzlyCorps fellow there. And this was a really helpful educational moment about education for me, because Ellen's a pro. And so we simplified the curriculum a lot, and basically tried to get the kids to look at and touch dirt as much as possible. So we dug a lot of holes. The picture on the right is me trying to get kids to make observations about two different types of soil that were found, one about 3 inches above the other. So the handful closer to the right is like a really heavy mulch layer. It's just mostly decomposed leaves, and it's very dark. And a lot of the kids thought it would be heavier because it's darker. So it was an interesting lesson in weight and moisture and color. And then there's also self-education. And I think that sometimes we forget how much we have to learn because we're really busy working and we already know so much. But especially at a resource conservation district where there are a lot of really different projects, and a lot of them are
Right.
Adam, I think you're not muted.
Sorry.
Thanks. Well, every project is very place-based. And so it's really important to get out there and see and learn for yourself. So this was a creek walk that we got to do not too long ago. We walked the extent of Parsons Creek just to see what was there. We were mostly monitoring for invasive plant species that have been there in the past. That picture is of one of my colleagues in a pool, measuring the depth of a pool, because it is a salmonid bearing stream. There's steelhead. And also we monitored what kind of vegetation was there, how it was interacting with the stream channel. And the really special part about this was we had no idea, but there were thousands and thousands and thousands of tiny toads and tree frogs. So that's the tiniest little fingernail-sized toad that I would never have connected to as I did if I hadn't gone out there and started catching them. This was another great educational experience. I got to tag along with a professional doing a snorkel survey, also monitoring for fish. So he's looking for steelhead at various life stages while he's on his belly in his dry suit there in the pool. And my colleague Joe and I are following behind and taking down the data. And meanwhile, I'm getting a great lesson in steelhead habitat and what to look out for, and how we're doing as we walk up the channel. And I'm also in the Sustainable Ag program. I know I've been talking a lot about water, but a lot of my work is actually in Sustainable Ag. And we help land stewards with carbon farm plans, which is creating a plan of their land that has focus on how the carbon cycle is interacting in that space. And so it has a lot to do with identifying problems and practices and dreams and goals. And it is absolutely crucial that we get out there, even though we may think that we have ideas before we do. We need to get out there and look at this puddle, for example, and say, okay, what's going on here? This is what I see right now at this time of year. This was in the spring. But then also be there with the land steward and say, hey, is this always like this? I know this was a wet spring. What is it like in a dry year? How much do you use this? How much do you need this? And they know way more than we will ever know about their land. And it's a really important moment of humility and learning that helps us immensely with our jobs. I also used my training time and money to go and participate in workshops. So on the left, this was a sediment delivery and erosion workshop that I got to go to, hosted by Pacific Watershed Associates and Salmonid Restoration Association. And we're looking at an armored fill crossing. So they actually removed the culvert out of this crossing and just put in a ton of rock. And they were able to do this because it's not actually a road that's used very much. It's only used seasonally and very infrequently. And so an armored fill crossing is less harmful than a culvert that could potentially blow out and would need a lot of maintenance. And the reason I show this is because there were people with so much varied and deep expertise at that conference, and we were able to sit in and listen to each other argue about things, bring up points. There were heavy equipment operators there. There were Department of Fish and Wildlife people there. So that was a really important thing, to take the time to be in the room for those conversations and understand the challenges and the potential solutions. And then the photo on the right is Ellen. We helped the local NRCS office engineer do a survey for a large culvert that needed to be replaced. We had to survey the whole area of the stream crossing and basically make a really detailed elevation model for that area so that she could do the engineered designs and to learn just what it takes to get that kind of information down was really important to be able to understand the project as a whole. And lastly, I think it's really important to be enthusiastic and to let others see how enthusiastic you are. This was a really fun day that I got to spend with Chloe up at Hopland doing composition studies. And I only did it for one day, and so I didn't retain very much information, but I learned a lot that day. And the grass was really tall, and I really got into it. And it was contagious, and enthusiasm like that can really carry you far and create connections and hook other people on really important things. So I think I just want to point out two things, even though there are a lot of important things in this world, but it is incredibly important to make education, whether it be self-education or education for others, a diverse sensory experience. Whether it's experiential or it's demonstrated educational moments. These photos are from experiential education. We were creating beaver dam or tiny little check dams, a la beaver, and some gully stuffing on the right, putting a lot of thinned, small diameter fir trees in these incised channels. And we learned a lot doing that. We learned a lot of detail that we probably wouldn't have paid attention to on a PowerPoint like this. And finally, you have to love things to learn. It's so much easier to care if you open yourself up to it. I'm going to tell you what all these photos are. This is a chicken at my house that started to come around. She's currently outside my bedroom window, and she made me really curious about chickens and why chickens behave why they do and why she was being so adventurous. This photo is of the tiniest little tree frog ever. There were so many tree frogs this spring, and I asked a lot of questions about tree frogs, and suddenly I care a lot about them. This was a rattlesnake on my way home from work. Around here in Mendocino County, when the days get hot, at night, all the snakes come out onto the road, and it's really hard not to squish them, and especially when you get emotionally invested. This green photo, you might not be able to see it very well, but this grass in the foreground is North Coast semaphore, which is endemic to the area and very highly prioritized by one of the programs at my resource conservation district. People love this grass, and it's an example of something that I don't love yet, but a lot of people do, and they're willing to do a lot for it and learn about it and teach it. This is blue-eyed grass where some of it's white. Why is that? I love blue-eyed grass. I don't know the answer yet, but it's a pretty exciting find that I found. And lastly, this is an acorn woodpecker. I live up at Hopland Research and Extension Center, which is kind of home to the acorn woodpecker. And this guy was filling up our garage with acorns. And then I'd open up the thing, and there he is, super mad that I opened up the garage, and I swept them all out, saying, "No, please put them somewhere else, you won't get them." And he just filled the thing up again. And this behavior led me to want to read the Secrets of the Oak Woodlands book and then continue learning about acorn woodpeckers and other species in the oak woodlands. And so I'm very grateful to him and all of the things that have entered my life and I've learned to love. And that is all. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to talk about it, if not answer it.
Great presentation, Jessica. It's a lovely sentiment to end on. Yeah, if anyone has any questions or you just want to voice your appreciations, feel free to unmute or write anything in the chat.
I don't have a question, but I wanted to jump in and just express some gratitude for Jessica. As our GrizzlyCorps fellow working in our sustainable ag and water programs, I think that she has taught us all a lot about thinking critically about education and our own education and being introspective and asking ourselves these questions. And yeah, she's brought a lot to our program in terms of her expertise and as well as our culture. And it was really wonderful having you here, Jessica. So thank you for that presentation. It was very indicative of your time here. It was
I think I'd just like to add to that and say that both Jess and Ellen at the RCD have brought more to our organization than any of the work that they've done could ever quantify. And I'm really grateful to have met and worked with both of them.
Hi, this is Linda. I just want to say that I've known Jessica since she was a young girl, and just that fact that she came back to Mendocino County and joined us at the RCD this year has been an extra special treat for all of us, and it's wonderful. All your contributions in both water and soil programs have been really enlightening, and really appreciate your enthusiasm and love of all small things like tree frogs.
I wanted to add my appreciation. Jessica, it's been wonderful having you here. And we really enjoyed all that you bring to the MCRCD. So thank you.
Yes, I have a question. If there were to be a battle between the acorn woodpecker or the chicken, who do you think would win?
Well, thank you for your question, Ellen.
Of course.
I would have to say the acorn woodpecker, certainly because they are social birds and they actually live in clans. And so they would come at you with all their family. And it would no longer be 1v1, it would be 1v a lot of acorn woodpeckers. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for your response.
Great. Well, again, thank you so much, Jessica. Really great presentation. And thank you everyone for joining.